orange juice from concentrate in your market's refrigerator. Pour out a bottle of Vitapact one night soon and see if you can't taste 25 years ago.
From Stan Brown's sports desk in pro football yesterday, Miami 14, Dallas 7, the Redskins 20, Detroit zip. In college, Notre Dame defeated the Air Force 48-15, Alabama over LSU 21-7, and Texas 42, Texas A&M 14. In World Hockey Association play, the Sharks lost to Chicago by a score of 4-3. Weatherman, so some light showers this morning and partly cloudy this afternoon. Fair tonight with increasing clouds Saturday and a chance of rain by afternoon Saturday. Highs today 55 to 65. Overnight lows from the 40s down to 29 in the colder portions of the valley. No smog today. Right now 42 in Burbank, 44 downtown, 45 at the Santa Monica Bay area, and up to 52 at KGIL in the Central Valley. That's the news. KGIL News, Jim Martin reporting.
We are a nation of skeptics. We tend to be cynical about that which is unsubstantiated. Mystery, it seems, is not tolerated unless a tangible explanation exists. But there are too many unknown feelings that defy solution. Intuition is not tangible, but people know it exists. Neither is trust. Yet people do trust. Forrest E. Olson Realtors cannot explain the sixth sense inherent in their organization. Like intuition and trust, it is not visible to the naked eye. However, it does exist. For 20 years, Forrest E. Olson Realtors have listed houses for sale and sold those houses in a shorter period of time than anyone in the business. Forrest E. Olson, a Coldwell Banker Company, must then have this sixth sense. They can't describe it, but they can make it work for you. When you list your house for sale with Forrest E. Olson, you'd better be prepared to move fast.
Looky, looky, I can see a ray of sunshine shining. I can feel a rainbow coming deep inside my mind.
All right, that's Roger Miller. Now, it is 9 minutes past 9 o'clock, 9 past 9. I think of all of the days that I have been in here, I've been here for almost 6 years, I've never seen quite the carnival-like atmosphere, particularly on a holiday, because this never happens. We have a lot of guests. We've had a lot of people come out over the last 3-4 years, and usually in this town we're kind of jaded. I guess we just take a lot of people for granted. You know, we get certain people that we think that you're going to be interested in, hopefully, and they're going to hold up for an hour, and it usually works out that way. Rod McEwen had an audience, and I was quite amazed because we were out here in the middle of nowhere in this weed patch in the San Fernando Valley. But we have people in here this morning, all, I suppose, not because they want to gawk at him, but because they're so fond of him as a man, and I can understand that to a degree. People who don't have to be to work here at KGIL today. They have a 4-day holiday. And the reason is Jonathan Winters. And if I were Jonathan Winters, I would be very pleased by that. I'm sure you do feel good about that people still care that much after all these years.
Well, Dick, that trite term, speechless, momentarily, I guess I am kind of speechless. I learned, however, a long time ago, some 24 years ago in radio, that you just don't want to be speechless for very long, because the manager says dead air is deadly. But I can only tell you that I am momentarily kind of speechless. I've been a big fan of yours since I've been out here in California, which is now going on 10 years, a little over 10 as a matter of fact. I moved my family out here 9 years ago, but I was out here a year and a half before that in television. But I love radio. I love you and your program, and I'm not going to get carried away, but I started in radio.
Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier, as you know, back in WING in Dayton, Ohio.
Can we just go back we have the time this morning, John. May I just preface this by saying, before you get to this, Jonathan Winters, I was also thinking that there have been 3 people in our lifetimes who have changed the whole face of comedy. One would be Lenny Bruce, the late Lenny Bruce. Mort Saul would have been another one, and Jonathan Winters. I think that Lenny and Mort would be cultists. In other words, they have cults. But it's incredible. I was reading an article the other day by Alan King, And he was saying that every comedian he knows who talks about comedy always includes the name of Jonathan Winters. You have had that universal appeal from the very beginning, and yet at the very beginning you were doing far out things, and it all started in Dayton, Ohio, at WING, where you were a disc jockey in 1950.
I was in art school. I was going to be an artist, Dick. I started out to be a political cartoonist, and then I kind of graduated into commercial art, and I thought somewhere along the line maybe I'd be a fine artist, but I really looked at my work. I had an exhibit, and do have an exhibit going on now, but I 25, 27 years ago, I looked at my work, and my wife, who, bless her heart, got her master's degree at Ohio State, she looked at my work, and she said, John, it's terrible. Stinks. And I agreed with her. I said, you're right. I said, I'm not ready to go out into the cruel world and make a living at painting, and I'll just have to hold off and wait, which I did, and waited until just a week ago to have my first show. It was well worth it. And I feel now that the timing was right. It was the thing to do. But at any rate, without going into a long thing, I back in 47, I was in a small school, Dayton Art Institute in Dayton, Ohio, and struggling, as I say, to be an artist. And my mother was in radio. She was, 30 years at WIZE, the sister station over in Springfield, Ohio. And so a lot of that rubbed off on me, her being in radio, her being an actress and this and that. And I went down. I was living in Dayton at the time. There was an amateur show going on at the Colonial Theater, which is now gone. But we were talking earlier about Gene Barry. Mm-hmm, Gene, by golly, Barry was probably the best DJ for my money in the Dayton area when I was there. And he was really hot and a great guy, great talent. And he was on this panel, a judge. He was one of the judges that evening at the Colonial Theater, Jack Weimer, Charlie Reeder, and one or two other people. And it was an amateur contest, as I say, for about half a dozen of us. And I hadn't had a watch for several years, and my wife said, I'd read this thing in the paper about going down to audition, and she said, look, you clown, if you want to get a watch, get down. They're giving a watch away. They gave away one of the cheapest watches I've ever encountered. It was a Gotham. I've never heard of a Gotham watch, but I still have that rascal, and I'm going to put it in a little box frame.
Do you remember what you did?
Yeah, I did the Indianapolis Speedway. I did the sounds of the cars, and then I did the characters. I interviewed the characters.
Just a little bit?
Well, I did Clem McCarthy, bless his heart, which has gone to sports announcer. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're at the Indianapolis Speedway. A remarkable day, not a cloud in the sky. There's a little lightning there in the far east. That's an awful lot of lightning. Seemed to have struck one of the cars and turned it around. And they're coming by now. Oh, there's trouble in the far turn for car number 36. Definitely out of it. And then I went in to do characters, things like that. But
You won.
But I won, and I became a disc jockey.
Yeah.
And I was on radio for just about a year. I remember I did a Man on the Street program. That was one of the first things I did. It was called, now wait a minute, I'm going back a few years. What Can You Do?
I still do that, John.
Right.
Don't put that down.
It's called What Can You Do? And what it was a program which got guys jobs.
Yeah.
And it was a wild program because, I'll never forget the sponsor, and he was a religious fanatic, unfortunately. And the engineer and I used to have to kneel down and say a little prayer before we went on. And it was, this is a true story.
Yeah?
And I said to the manager of the station, I said, look, Lord knows, believe in God and what have you, but I said, there's something about kneeling down in this man's department store with my engineer, which just isn't right. And he said, look, you clown, you just go ahead and do it. It's money, and it's a half an hour, and we need the bread. So I did it. But at any rate, I stayed on for a year, and then television came into the Middle West, as you know. And
well, can we? I don't mean to hold you too long at WING, but how the whole formation of the Jonathan Winters character, because it's always, I think, to most of us, your people are universal, because not only are they funny, but there's a love. We love your people because, quite frankly, I think we love Jonathan Winters. And that shouldn't embarrass you because I think you can understand that. We love the person doing these characters, therefore we accept them as your friends.
Right.
Now, they developed that W-I-N-G.
Yeah, the characters, a lot of them did, granted. Fortunately, with little time, I worked naturally harder on the characters and with the characters, if you will, and polished them. I guess that's the term. And it took me several years to really kind of find them. It's like a puppeteer working with a marionette. You master those strings so that you can really move him, or move that little doll or character, and or ventriloquist. It's the same thing with the guy that does voices. You work with them and you hone that blade until it's really sharp. Grandma Frickert started out in Dayton, Ohio. My aunt, God rest her soul, was 80-some years old, about 85, Aunt Lou Perks. She was a product of Ohio, my grandmother's sister, and she was a great old gal, had snow-white hair ever since I can remember, was a cripple, and she but was able to get around. She spent a great deal of her life in bed because of her problem with her legs, but she had a great, fantastic sense of humor. Always give me a little glass of wine and some fudge. And we would exchange stories together, and she taught me how to play poker. She was a very hip old lady. And from her, I put together Maud Frickert, who is, as you know, is...
Oh, mercy. Here we are, you know, it's almost Christmas time, and I'm painting cards again. I do these little simple cards because I'm a simple person. I'm 87 years old, and I'm dating a 21-year-old boy who's a lot of fun. Bless his heart. He has a good sense of humor, and he runs fast, and he goes down to the grocery like a bullet.
Our guest this morning is Jonathan Winters, as I'm sure by this time you know. It's 19 minutes past 19 past 9.
At Continental, we have a name for all the letters praising our hostesses. We call them orchid letters. One of our girls, Dawn Dobbins, has received over 100 orchid letters. She could open a floral shop. But then Dawn Dobbins is a girl to remember. On Continental Airlines, a flight to remember.
Okay, one more here. Jonathan Winters, let me just tell you a brief story here. He says to me just a minute, he says, Dick, is this okay with you? I says, what do you mean, is it okay? He says, am I hogging too much time? Jonathan Winters obviously doesn't listen too often. What I do, John, and you got to understand this, I take others' talents and use it as my own. And people say, what a wonderful, talented human being that Dick Whittington is. I ain't got no talent, man. I just let others talk and they think I'm doing wonderful things. No. And that certainly wouldn't be the case. 20 minutes past, and I bring in the reproductions of the paintings, please. Oh, you got them there? Good, because I want to get into that, too. Christmas shopping at Bullock's is as delightful an idea this year as it's always been. For your convenience, Bullock's is now open Sundays from noon to 5. Reflect the joys of Christmas with gifts from Bullock's. They made it a tradition to gather a wide variety of gifts so that you'll be sure to find something special for each and every one on your list. And during Bullock's holiday sale now in progress, you'll find vast savings on everything from fashions to furniture. Shop Sundays, noon to 5 p.m. at Bullock's. Why don't we do one more, Jan, and we get some time.
The Tropicana Hotel and Country Club in Las Vegas presents, in the glamorous new Superstar Theater, for the first time on one stage, Jack Benny and Pearl Bailey.
You know what's happening at the Superstar Theater at the Tropicana Hotel and Country Club? Jack Benny. Of course, honey. You know you're going to have to pay your own way. Oh, yes, there's somebody there, that young girl, Pearl Bailey. She's there, too. Oh, my goodness, Jack Benny, Pearl Bailey, Tropicana.
Jack Benny and Pearl Bailey with Louis Belson now appearing in the new Superstar Theater at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas. 2 dazzling shows every night through Thanksgiving. Phone for your ticket reservations today. The Tropicana Hotel and Country Club, Las Vegas. The only hotel with 2 main showrooms.
All right, one more thing here. Girls like Dawn Dobbins fly with you on Continental flights to Kansas City. Your choice of 2 daily nonstops on Continental Airlines, a flight to remember Continental. Jonathan Winters is rather self-deprecating when it comes to his other remarkable talent, and that is that he is a painter. Jonathan Winters is a very good painter. We've heard him talk about it. over the years, but we've never really seen anything of his work, or maybe from time to time. We have a mutual friend, and I have seen one painting, Jay Sandrich, and I have seen some of Jonathan's work. But you have the opportunity down on, what is the name of the art gallery again? I'm sorry, John.
It's the Ankrum Art Gallery, Ankrum, on La Cienega, here in Los Angeles.
Because Bert Pegram, a gentleman, a friend of mine here at the radio station, also an account executive, we'll call him that. He's a salesman is what he is.
That's all right.
You know.
It's a nice term.
Out there hustling.
Yeah.
Come here, Bert, just a second. Why don't I have Bert just briefly, you went down to see Jonathan's work. Obviously, you're a fan of Jonathan Winters.
Absolutely. And he's very, very good. I was amazed at that. I was primarily amazed at, and very pleased that Jonathan is as nice as I had hoped he would be, and even nicer. But the beautiful thing was that because he's a comedian, you look at the paintings and you start to laugh, and then you look at them a second time and you say, hey, he's really saying something. And he really is. He's really very, very good. The titles are unbelievable.
Yeah, give me some of the titles.
Well, this one here.
Well, here's one. Two birds watching Doris Day's cat and dog drown. Another one a little on the serious side is called Watergate, 1973. I must, try to describe on radio a little what the painting's like. It's a fairly good-sized painting. I right off hand, I don't know the exact measurements, but the largest, certainly, of the paintings I do, it's a white telephone. And, of course, ladybugs on the telephone, and then on the receiver, a red, white, and blue representing the country, a heart on the center of the phone representing the heart of the nation, number 1 signifying the office of the president, and then people coming out of the telephone, people, again, the country, and the people involved in Watergate, and then a wire, the telephone wire, running to a large ladybug, and right in tiny, tiny letters. The wire's not quite attached to the ladybug, and that's for a reason, because still the president is not labeled guilty, and so there's maybe 1/16 of an inch between the wire and then below that, water, blue water. Other titles, Wounded Knee, and I naturally have for some time felt very seriously, and still am, about the Indian situation, the American Indian here in this country, and I work with the Indians, you know. I won't go into a long thing about that, but
have they ever resented you? You do an Indian character. Have you ever heard any resentment?
Because I've talked to various minorities, not just Indians, but other minorities, about things with regard to my doing characters, and they said, Ricardo Montalban, a friend of mine, once said, I asked him about, I wanted to do a Mexican. And he said, fine, my friend, you do one, but remember to do it with taste and dignity. And I always remember that, and that's the way I work. Do it with taste, Don't make us, put us under a tree with a jug of booze in our lap, and in our laps, and portray us that way. Give us some dignity, and as the people we are. And so that's what I've always remembered, and tried to do that. I have one here called The Thoughts of a Hollywood Actor While Drowning in His Pool. Here's one called Looking Through a Keyhole at a Lucky Rat Fink. My Christmas card this year
this is good.
Is kind of a sort of a primitive card. It's small, a little blue background, and little trees and red birds, a couple of white birds, and then the snow. And then there are red birds in the snow, and one red bird has a key in his back. And it's a little bit of humor. Here's one more on the serious side. It's a quiet little kind of porcelain-like town. Could be anywhere, with little green grass and little yellow flowers. And in the center of the picture is a bomb falling. It's first day of war. Then there are two more here. One is called this one, the first opening day of deer season, and it's a bitter comment on hunting, and I feel very strongly about that. I used to hunt myself. I never hunted deer or animals. I hunted bird, which is just as guilty. Pheasant and rabbit, and 25 years ago I hung that up and put them away. Put the guns and that stuff out. I think I could never see, very honestly, I won't go into a long thing about hunting. I could never quite understand, though, what kind of guy could take anywhere from a .316 Magnum to a long rifle. I'm thinking of an .03 with a telescopic sight, and at 1,000 yards, kill a deer. I think if you're going to kill a deer, then take a knife and run after him. You're just as guilty for my money, but I mean, at least it's like a bear, go at a bear. Fight him hand to hand and see what happens. That'd cure a lot of those cats. And then this last one is called Hard Rock at Midnight. There's a full moon there, and this guy is doing his thing in front of a microphone.
Any Friday night on the Midnight Special, you can see that almost, right?
But those are some of them.
Marvelous, they really are. And again, that's just another facet of a man who hasn't talked that much about his art. I guess you've had kind of have you felt kind of inferior about your art that you haven't?
No. This current show that's, as I say, running at the Ankrum Gallery represents 3 years' work. And there's some almost 60 paintings in the show. Some 30 paintings I think are still for sale. I had an opening here just this past Sunday. And I tell you, Dick, it was a tremendous thrill for me. And somebody asked me, they said, my gosh, the amount of stars that came, the amount of people.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And they said it had to be a big thrill. And I would, without a doubt, say there was only one other time in my career, in my life, that the thrill was equally as important and as great. And that was the opening of It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, Stanley Kramer's picture with all the comedians and the whole thing. And that evening, with the searchlights in the sky, was the last big Hollywood opening that I can remember. Mm-hmm. And I really felt, like, my gosh, this is it, man. You've finally arrived. And then to walk into that theater and see myself on the screen, I was like a child afterwards.
Did you ever think you were going to get there, John? I mean, from Dayton then to New York?
I never gave up. I really, I'll be very honest with you. There's no reason to lie to you. I never dreamed I'd come this far. I thought that I could make a living somewhere along the line. I was convinced I could do that, and I mean in the business. But I never dreamed, my wildest dreams, that I'd ever come this far. My wife, bless her heart, always believed in me. And she stuck by me through a lot of problems, and which go along with success. And a lot of times I shook, rattled, and rolled, but hung in there, and she hung in there with me. And I think a lot of guys, as you know only too well, come up this funny ladder, and with that lady that started with them, and at $25 a pop, and a hamburger here, and a funny little hot plate, and they meet a starlet somewhere in downtown L.A., and boom, the little lady in the torn sweater goes. And so I've hung in there. I don't know. 25 years, and we're still looking at one another and saying funny things. So it's been worth it.
Big Jonathan Winters, of course, my guest this morning. As a friend of mine, you might remember him from Dayton, Ohio. His name is Dick Kirshmer. If you don't,
sure, yes.
Do you remember Dick? Well, Dick is out here, and he's the general manager of a drug company, L.A. Drug. And we got talking about you. Periodically, because of people who remember you, a guy by the name of Dean Miller, another guy that you remember from Dayton, Ohio. These are names that Jonathan would know, and I don't mean to get inside, but Dick was recalling for me, not too long ago, a story that even in Dayton, if you had two people in a saloon that you were performing.
I'm afraid that's true, Dick.
And no, I didn't mean to embarrass you with that, but that evidently led to
Yeah, it took me a long time to find out that there weren't the best audiences in the world in alleys, or in washrooms in some of the better hotels. And I'll never forget, there was a great friend of mine, a black cat, who unfortunately had to work in a washroom, and I'd come in from time to time, and he was in a bar in one of the better hotels, and I would tell him the problems of the black people and their black race, and he finally just turned to me and said, "Hey, man, I got to make some money. Please, go away." And so he later on, I wrote to him, and he said, "I'm glad you shaped up." But I had to pay some dues. Everybody does, Dick, and I think it was about 12 years ago that I really got my head on straight. It took a little bit of living.
I remember one time, this was at the Hungry Eye in San Francisco, and you were funny that night, of course. But you were also very serious. You started talking, and there was a murmuring in the back of the room.
Right.
And by this time, it got to a point where I could figure out, I was up reasonably close. Yeah. And I could figure out what it was about. Yeah. What's wrong with him? Why isn't he being funny? Right. So, does that bother you? I mean, do you still get that today when you go out somewhere?
Oh, sure. I had a person say a thing that you hear quite often in this business, and we, the funny guys, really hear an awful lot. And I was talking very seriously with a person the other night, and they turned to me and they said in the middle of the conversation, "Are you being serious now?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "I sure as hell am." And they said, "Well, I can't tell." And I thought, in the old days, that would have really bugged me and made me sore, made me mad. But I realized, I took into consideration that with many people, and this person certainly included, the only time they see you is when you're being funny. So why should they suddenly believe you, as being serious? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But certainly all my friends, and a great many of my fans, know certainly when I'm being serious. I'm serious about many things, about obviously the Indian movement. I don't get into it unless, I'm into it because I'm definitely interested in it. It's a big part of my life. But I don't wave a lot of flags. I don't believe in that. I'm doing in my own little quiet way what I can.
But you don't feel the compulsion anymore to constantly be on?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I find that there's a time to be on and a time to be off. And when I get into my funny little car, when I leave here, I'll be off. I won't be dressed up as a medieval knight in my funny little wagon. I'll be in my regular clothes. In the old days, I remember one time I was bombed out of my bird. I was I left the studio in New York and was dressed as Grandma Frickert. And this is about 15, 18 years ago. And I drove up the West Side Highway, and there are 2 toll stations, and the second toll station, I decided to have a little fun. As I say, I was gone, I was gassed. And I looked at this man and missed the quarter going into the basket. And he said, "Madam, would you get that quarter?" And I hit him with some language that would turn a Marine around. And he was really shaking. "How dare you tell me anything, you clown? Drop dead. I'm not going to get that quarter." And then rolled out some bad words. And he was literally shocked out of his britches and stopped me and then was going to call over the police, and I finally talked them out of it. It was a little frightening.
Yeah, I would imagine. My guest this morning, Jonathan Winters. John, I'm going to ask a favor of you.
Yeah.
This goes back, I guess, one of the first times that I saw you, and to me, we all have favorite Jonathan Winters things. Let me do a couple of commercials. Can we get a little bit of the picnic, Grandma Frickert's picnic?
Okay.
That undoubtedly, that happens to be my favorite. I'm sure anybody in this room or anybody listening has a Jonathan Winters favorite. Could I do that?
Sure. I haven't done it in a long, long time, but I'll do the best I can.
If you could, I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this because I haven't heard this in such a long time. Jonathan Winters, my guest this morning, 25 minutes until 10. Sweet Dick Whittington here on to me, a very special Friday, and I hope it's a very special Friday for you, too, with my guest, Jonathan Winters.
When it comes to Datsun dealers, Miller Imports is the big one. And since they are the big one, you'll have confidence in Miller Imports. Confidence that they've got the big selection of cars, the big service department, the big parts department, so they're never out of the part you need. If you're thinking economy, if you're thinking mileage, think Datsun. And think Miller Imports, the big Datsun dealer. You'll have confidence in Miller Imports, the big one, selling the little one. The Datsun. Miller Imports on Van Nuys, about a half a mile north of the Ventura Freeway.
All right, let's see, one more here. The Sears Hollywood Radio Theater, let me see. This week, The Princess Stakes, starring Howard Duff at all climaxes tonight. Julie Adams, Ray Danton, Deborah Wally, and Denver Pyle. That's tonight and every night, Monday through Friday. The Sears Hollywood Radio Theater, brand new drama on radio. Well, let me see. Maybe I can get one more in here, and then I've got some time with Jonathan. Now showing exclusively in the Valley only at the Airport Theater this year or any year's funniest comedy starring George Segal and Glenda Jackson in A Touch of Class. George Segal, Glenda Jackson have class as you'll find in A Touch of Class. A good film, very funny film. The same program, Peter Sellers and Where Does It Hurt? 2 comedies will make you forget Watergate or any other problems you might have. Special early bird prices Monday through Thursday, only $1 before 7 p.m. The Airport Theater, located on Roscoe Boulevard, opposite the Van Nuys Airport. Now, doing this to somebody is as unprofessional as you can possibly be, but since my whole act is unprofessionalism, Big John, I'm not even going to apologize for it. The hell with it. I'm just going to ask whether it's possible. I can say that I think most people, even peripheral this business, when you watch somebody working in comedy, you're analyzing. And I think it's Mort Saul's line, in this town, we don't laugh at things. We say, man, that's funny. Hey, that's funny. And that's the kind of reaction that you get. You did a piece of Grandma Frickert and the Picnic, and I don't think I can never remember myself doing this ever again and never before. I was actually on the floor. I mean, I was just rolling on the floor with tears in my eyes, and I know it's hard. We cannot duplicate that.
I haven't done the Picnic for quite a while, but I'll try really to the best of my ability to put it back together. It's a typical scene that I assume that most people go through in the spring or summer, no matter where they live in the country, of a picnic and a little funny group of people, grandma and the mother and the husband and 3 or 4 children, a rather unusual stepbrother, and a dog, a kitty, and one of the neighbors. And they're in a pickup, and they're driving along, and the conversation is,
listen, now let me tell you something, Lamar. Let's find a place to stop pretty soon. I've asked you 15 times. 15 times. There's been a lot of beautiful creeks and rivers, lakes. You've passed them all.
Shut up, you old bat. I'm sick of it, will you? I'm trying to find a place.
Please, just do as he says.
Be still, be still.
I sure wish we'd find a place pretty soon. I want to go swimming.
Cool it and just sit down. Don't lean against the dog there. You'll kill it. You're 215 pounds. You'll kill the dog. I told you not to lean against the dog. I told you not to.
All right, we'll pull over pretty soon. Well, you put a curse on the car. I got a blowout. All right, get out, Mom. Come on. Ethel, you get out, too. Let's go. Come on, Lenny, you get out.
Okay, I'll get out.
Now, don't just stand there with your finger in the air. Bring some groceries. Here, Dad, do you want to help out? Dad is so deaf.
I do what I can. I hear what I want to hear.
All right, all of you, get up against that big tree. I want to get a picture of you. Come on. Lenny, what have you done?
Well,
What are you doing?
Well, you put too much pepper on these hard-boiled eggs, Mom.
That ain't pepper. Good Lord, them's black ants. Oh, no. Now, everybody get over here for the picture. Where's baby Elizabeth? Don't touch that groundhog. You don't know where it's been.
Right there now.
Ow! Oh, ouch! Oh, mercy. The baby just spoke. No wonder them hornets stung it.
Just as funny.
Well, it's been a long time since.
No, and it's just
I've done
as
it.
funny.
I added a few things and forgot a few things, obviously.
John, on your present television show, now you've had a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot of opportunities, but you've had 2 television shows that I can recall. One, the NBC 15-minute show, which I enjoyed immensely.
That goes back to 1957.
Yeah.
Right, and then over at CBS.
On CBS.
Here, right.
Why didn't that work?
Well, I tell you, I think there are a number of things, reasons why it didn't work. I don't put the blame on any one person. I think that's a mistake. I put the blame only on myself, really, never on my actors, the people that have been with me or helped me. I think that the problem was that I found that the best thing for me was improvisation. It has nothing to do, for that matter, with writers. There are a lot of great writers, fantastic writers. But for me and for my bag, I'm in that world of improvisation. I do it in my painting, and I do it in my comedy. To just ad-lib, as we're doing here. That's the fun thing for me. And for me to do jokes and lines, with the exception of maybe theater or movies, then I stick strictly to that script when I do a picture.
I can always recall you're coming out in front of the curtain, out in front of the show, or doing an introduction of one of your guests, and I always felt at that moment, because Jonathan Winters is the kind of a man that you feel compassion for, you feel an empathy, you can almost feel the butterflies in his stomach as you're watching him. And much like Sid Caesar, you were not comfortable in that role, but you were not comfortable in the role as... as
very true. Yeah.
Well, of course, the star of the show, but the man who had to also be the host. You just
that's true. I'm at home when I'm in my characters. I don't pretend to be Paul Polish coming out. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm so happy you could be here with us this evening.
We don't want you that way.
I can't do that.
Yeah, we don't want you that way.
I want to get right to the meat of the thing, and I believe, very honestly, I don't mean to get into a long plug for my show, but The Wacky World of Jonathan Winters, which is seen here on CBS on 7:30 on Monday night, is at least from my way of thinking, is the best crack at television that I've had, because if nothing else, if it goes down the tubes, and Lord knows I hope it doesn't, I think we've done very well around the country. We're in trouble momentarily with Monday Night Football, which will end in January, but I must confess I'm a little inclined to switch over myself and wonder what those big rascals are up to. But at least it's like the song, Dick. I did it my way, and it's been a ball. I want to give credit to Greg Garrison, who's my producer. It sounds like, you're accepting some kind of an award now, but I want to, which I'm not. But I want to give credit. I always have. If I ever got a crack at a show like yours, is to a gal who's a fantastic actress and who has helped me, my Lord, so much. Well. Her name is Mary Gregory. She's the gal on my show that is a regular. Ronnie Graham was on the show, who's a great talent. I'm sure you know Ronnie. He's up doing theater now with Marion Mercer up in Seattle. And I've had a number of fantastic guests, but I must say that Mary Gregory is just one of the great. She's such a joy to work with. It was like Sid Caesar working with Imogene.
You ever wonder, John, to yourself, though, because this is very commonplace. You are always that gracious, and these are stories I've heard. Why people want to help you as much as they do? You ever thought about that? And people do.
Well,
like for the turnout of the art gallery.
Thank the Lord for people. Bless their heart. They're going to keep this old planet going. I believe in people. I'm not one of these guys that lives under a black cloud. I just love people for the most part. There's some baddies around. We all know that, and they don't stick around, fortunately, too long. You can usually get at them one way or another.
Would you mind telling what it's going to be like, John? Now you have to go back east, right? On a what is it, kind of a resales trip to resell the show?
Got to promote the show and, do some newspaper articles and some shots on TV and promote it a little bit, get it going.
Is this going to be tough for you?
It's always tough. I tell you an interesting story. As I say, I'm a product of the Middle West, and the Middle Westerners, as you know, like the Westerners, are very down-to-earth people, very basic, very American. That sounds like the last page of Reader's Digest, but they are, and I figure for the most part very warm and very talkative. Go into a drugstore or barbershop and say, "Hey, Jess, what's happening?" I went to New York in 1953, and I'll never forget. I'd been there as a child and older several times, so I wasn't a complete rube. I knew where the Empire State Building was. I'd seen it, and the Statue of Liberty, so I didn't stand there for 2 hours and gawk or ask a question, "Where is it?" But I had $56.46. I'd gotten off the plane. That's all I had. I was married and one child. My wife and boy were back in Ohio, and I'd come to the big city. I went into the Biltmore Men's Bar. It was January 1953, and I sat down beside a guy, typical New Yorker, with, at that time, the Mirror in his hands. And it was about noon. He was having a glass of beer. I don't know what I was having. I hope the same. At the time, I hoped, at any rate. And I turned to him, and it was my first arrival in New York as an actor, as a comedian, to hit it. They're there to work, And I said, "Say, my friend, how'd the Rangers do?" And he looked at me and he said, "You got a nickel?" That was my opening shot. From then on, I got real tough. And when people would say, "How about a seat here in the subway?" No chance. No No chance. Stand up, clown. Stand up. But don't misunderstand. Not all New Yorkers are this way. There's a lot of love in a lot of those people. But for my money, it was always difficult to put 8 million people on an island and have them very happy. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. My guest this morning, Jonathan Winters, is by this time I'm sure most of you have gathered. It's 13 minutes until 10. Let me just do a couple of things here, and then we'll be straight between now and 10 o'clock.
Oh, it pays to pick up Plymouth if your budget's getting thinner. Plymouth Duster's still a winner at your Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
Did you know that the suggested retail price of our 6-cylinder Duster, excluding transportation, is actually less than the lowest price 74 Volkswagen? Duster seats 5 adults comfortably. The VW only 4. Duster gives 3 times the trunk space and solid Chrysler engineering that doesn't sell safety short. It really pays to pick a Plymouth Duster at your Southern California Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
Yeah, one more here for Solly's, this delicatessen we've been telling you about, the all-time restaurant and delicatessen over in Woodland Hills that we discovered accidentally, and I think because of that, we've had the opportunity of talking about this place. If you like delicatessen food, and I suppose after yesterday you're not thinking too much about food, but sometime over the weekend, and you like delicatessen, you like corned beef, you like pastrami, and all the good things, the great smell of a delicatessen, you walk in there, and that's just fun by itself. I think you'll find the biggest sandwiches you've ever had at Solly's. He's got to work harder for it because he's new, and therefore he tries harder. It looks like a restaurant. It doesn't have the look of a delicatessen. I don't know whether that's good or not. But the thing is that you walk in there, you're seated at a table, but they got the great menu, the fantastic menu. I'm not going to run it down right now. But the kosher pickles that have been aged for what seems like 105 years. And if you like pastrami, you like corned beef, and all of the good delicatessen things, there's more of it and better tasting at Solly's all-time restaurant and delicatessen. It's in Woodland Hills. It's 1 block east of Topanga on Ventura Boulevard. Solly's, the delicatessen that does not look like one. But if you're up in that area, maybe today, tomorrow, Solly's, let me see, you're in Woodland Hills there, 1 block east of Topanga on Ventura Boulevard. Now, Jonathan Winters, of course, for a lot of reasons. But Jonathan, as you know, is a humanitarian, a man who believes that since he has been helped himself by others, that he would also like to help others. For example, there is a new young man that you'll be reading about, hearing about, seeing on television. Lamar Jean Gumbody has just been signed by the Los Angeles Rams. Excuse me, and Jonathan has brought him in this morning. Evidently, he's a friend, Jonathan?
Yes, he's a very close friend. I've watched his career when he started out in the Pony League, and watched him as just a child, you know. He's a young man. He's 24 years old. He played with football with my boy, and then in high school he played and was quite a star there. And then in college, he was in animal husbandry in college, and was a part-time vet, and worked on horses and wild birds and cows and things. And he's an interesting guy. He's very warm, but he's 6'4", 270 pounds.
He's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, Lamar Jean.
Well, it's real good to be here, and I want to thank you, Mr. Dick, for having me on, and I want to thank John, too.
It's a great pleasure, Lamar Jean. Of course, I'm sure from what Jonathan has told us that you're definitely going to be an asset to the Los Angeles Rams. What is your position?
My position right now is to get a little more money. I really want to. That sounds, almost like a joke.
Yeah, I did.
But it isn't with me.
Yeah.
I've been married 5 times, and I need that money. You're married that many times, you're pretty well wiped out. And my current wife is real good about it. We're down here in a trailer down there about, maybe 26 miles from Trancas. And so north. And we're real happy, though. We've got TV set and a refrigerator and her kid. And so we're real happy.
Well, Lamar Jean, I didn't want to get into your personal life unless you want to.
No, I don't care.
Well,
I'm real proud of my personal life.
But I thought maybe we could talk about the Los Angeles Rams. What position on the team will you be playing?
I'm going to play, apparently, the remainder of the season, the Rams season, I'm going to play linebacker.
Play a linebacker?
Yeah.
I see.
Linebacker. I'm in real good shape. I must say this. What did happen to me here last year when I was with Baltimore, See, I've been traded 12 times in 2 years. I had the 4 toes on my right foot took off, and that's the reason I run a little to the right. So this year I had the ones on my left took off, and I'd go right on down the field. But I feel real good. Physically, I don't think I've ever been better shape. My back hurts me a little, but I fell off the ladder. I was painting the top of the kitchen and in the trailer there. And I fell out and hurt my back here Sunday week, but I feel real good mentally. And the guys, I know all the guys' names now. And I think I'm going to be okay for the Saints game anyway.
Yeah. Well, Lamar Jean Gumbody, for those of you just joining us, brought in by a personal friend of Jonathan Winters, known since he was a boy. Lamar Jean, how do you feel that you will help the Rams for the remainder of the season? What do you have as an asset?
Well, I have a sense of humor. A lot of these guys get depressed when they're behind, and I always go in there and joke with them, and say, "Come on, let's get together in the third quarter." And I'm good. My position, I've only missed 2 or 3 tackles in my professional career, which is real good.
Yeah,
2 or 3.
Yeah.
That's almost a miracle. I've intercepted passes. I tackle well. I can throw the ball real good. I haven't been asked to, but I can throw it real good.
Yeah.
I can throw it 30 or 40 yards.
Yeah.
And, I mean, considering, I'm not a quarterback. I think, too, the crowd's always been with me everywhere I've ever gone because I have a funny face. And I'll turn to the crowd every once in a while, wink at them, and give them a little fist. And, and they love that.
Yeah.
They love that.
Let me ask you, Lamar Jean Gumbody, as a professional football player, how do you get up for your games? What do you do to get up for the game next Sunday?
Well, I'm going to tell you, just like I've come in here to the studio, I always carry a football with me.
Mm-hmm.
I live and breathe it.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I'm not carrying a football is in the spring or summer when I carry a mushmelon. But most of the time, and even then, I'll paint that tan. I'll carry a football. I live and breathe it. I live and breathe it. I throw my wife back and forth in the trailer in the morning. Tackle her, while she's cooking, things like that. And put my fingers up there to make a timeout sign, for her kid. But I do little things, and I'm up for the game. I'm excited. I get up early in the morning. Sometimes I don't even go to bed. I just stay up 24 hours, so I'm really high.
Well, you play linebacker with the Rams starting this Sunday against the Saints. Now, I think most of us would be curious as to what a linebacker does when he calls the defensive huddle, and what does he say to the rest of the defense as to what they're going to do against the offense?
Well, he'll say things like, look, in your position, you're referring to a tackle. He'll say, close that in because Bertelsen wants to go through here. For instance, when I was scrimmaging with him last week, I said that about Bertelsen. I said, Bertelsen wants to go through, so close that up or widen it, either one. Close it up or widen it. If you were to close it up, say, Bertelsen couldn't get through, and it'd be a loss. So you don't want to say that too many times. They usually just say, if you're on the offense, which I am most of the time, you just open it up. We'll go through here. A lot of times I don't say anything.
Just stand there.
Just stand there and listen to what's going on. Every once in a while, guys say, pull your sock up or something.
Well, now, you're going to be up against a very good quarterback, Archie Manning, with the New Orleans Saints. Do you have any game plan, a personal game plan against Archie Manning?
Well, my game plan is to sack him as many times as I can. And I've never really maliciously hurt nobody, but I aim to get him and, maybe turn his head halfway around. Not tear it off, just, turn it halfway. So that, he's out in a quarter. I hate violence. I really do.
Well, Lamar Jean, we certainly want to thank you very much for coming in with Jonathan this morning. How nice of you to do that. We wish you the best with the Rams. Do you have any advice for any of the kids out there who someday might want to be a professional football player?
Yes, I do. I have any number of pieces of poetry I carry on me. But I would like to say this. I think the best thing for a young kid to do is drink milk, just like you hear them say. That's important to keep their bones tight and hard. Drink a lot of milk. And if you're wearing glasses, take them off and break them. Learn to look and see good. And listen to radio. Get away from TV for a while. Listen to radio. Listen to what they're telling you there. And other than that, just be real good in school. And if you can't be in school, get a private tutor.
Very good, John. Maybe I'm asking insight. Now, of course, that was totally extemporaneous. I've never done that with you before. We've never done anything like that before. When a question is thrown at you that you say, "Oh my God," he threw something at me that I don't know whether I can. Have you been stopped?
Yes. I think
that seems impossible.
I don't think there's a man alive that hasn't been stopped. It's like saying, "Did you ever bomb?" You know.
Yeah.
I've bombed in some of the better cities, my friend.
Really?
Oh yeah, sure. I've had a number of people just say, "What is he doing?" And any comedian, any actor that tells you he's never bombed is telling you a terrible lie, Richard. Oh yeah, yeah, because we all have.
Can I get one more thing from you? The country and western singer doing the song.
The country and western singer.
I keep pushing you against the wall. You won't come back, but I
country and western.
But the highway.
Oh gosh.
Do you remember him? I should have given you a note on that.
Yes, here I go.
God, what did I do there? I'm sorry. I did it.
Just to prove a point.
I did it.
Just to prove a point, right?
Yeah. So I'm a big man.
There you go.
Hey, stump Jonathan Winters.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
No. I do a cowboy singer. I love... my wife is not a big fan of country western music or what we used to call, hillbilly music when we were back in Ohio. But there's a guy I love. He sings El Paso, Marty Robbins. I love Marty Robbins. He's one of my favorites. Johnny Cash is good, Merle Haggard and these guys, but I love Marty Robbins. I've always been a Marty Robbins fan. I have an album of his, but I can't sing. I hum badly, Dick. But well, this is a little western singer, so. He stands there and he says, "I want to sing a song. Most of my life I've been in prison. And I started when I was about 4, and I'm 62 now. I'm still going in and out of prison. But I feel it's important because in there I got humility and I found a lot of things. And at any rate, when I wasn't in prison, I was in the saddle and riding a horse out across the range. This is a wonderful song. It's called Riding Towards the Purple Mountain. When the horse fell down." Ding, 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 ding. I was riding towards the Purple Mountain when my horse fell down. I was riding toward the Purple Mountain when my horse fell down. My horse fell down. Then we all sat around the campfire and listened to the horse die.
You're too much. Jonathan, thank you. You did it, you son of a gun, you did it. Jonathan Winters, I thank you so much. And the show...
Thank you, Dick. It's been a real joy.
Oh, well, you made it a real joy. It was a real joy, I tell you.
I'd love to do it again.
Thank you, my friend. I'd like to hold you to it. The Ankrum Gallery, the work of Jonathan Winters can be seen, and if you enjoy listening to this man, I think you'll enjoy his paintings as much. It's Jonathan Winters, and nothing could be different from what Jonathan Winters is. That is not only a very funny man, as we all know, but a very nice man. A man that obviously, I don't think you could have an enemy in the world, and I understand why. The Ankrum Gallery on La Cienega Boulevard, and how long will the show be there?
For 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks.
I think it closes out December 9th.
And then, of course, the Johnny Winters Show, Monday nights on CBS at 7:30 on Channel 2. John, again, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Dick.
Thank you, buddy. Okay, that's 10 o'clock then, and that'll do it then for this Friday, and I'm sure as hell glad I came in today, I'll tell you. And maybe you were glad you got up, too. For Jonathan Winters, my guest this morning. Come Monday morning, Bill Balance, Sweet Dick Whittington out of his Queens Garden, and for this 23rd day of November, 73, and good morning, have a nice weekend.
If anyone should ask, you're listening to KGIL, San Fernando.
Good morning, it's 56 degrees with the news. Jim Martin, brought to you as a public service on behalf of the California State Department of Human Resources Development. 2 men were killed when their car slammed into a parked dump truck in Sun Valley last night. The victims are identified as 38-year-old Jose Cervantes of Van Nuys and 25-year-old Juan Camarena of North Hollywood. A Passenger in the car is reported in fair condition at a Sun Valley hospital. Sheriff's deputies say the bodies of 2 young women were found early today on a street in Carson near the Los Angeles harbor. The victims, described as in their early 20s, were not immediately identified. Pacific Southwest Airlines has tightened security around its strike-idle jetliners at airports throughout the state following this week's intentional damaging of 2 PSA jets. Skies are clearing over the state after a soggy Thanksgiving, but the weatherman says a new storm is on the way and will bring more rain to most of the state by tonight or tomorrow. Store officials of Tiffany's in Beverly Hills are expected today to complete an inventory that will determine how much was taken in Wednesday's daylight jewelry heist. Authorities now say the loss may total some $50,000 rather than the original $1 million estimate. 16 persons have died in automobile accidents in California since the Thanksgiving holiday began at 6 o'clock Wednesday evening. The driving holiday will cover 102 hours, ending Sunday midnight. The Associated Press reports the government has appropriated $4.75 million to investigate the Watergate scandal.